Okay, well, uh, a very, very big welcome and thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. And we still have many sisters who I know will join us in the next few minutes. So I'm Sister Philomena. I'm in England right now. I'm from the English congregation of St. Catherine of Siena in England. And I'm the member of the Justice and Peace Commission, for which I promote the work of Europe and Middle East. So I work very closely with Sister Dusty, Sister Ameline, Sister Reg, um, uh, that are with us today. And so this webinar, as you've seen, we will talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, but obviously we can't discuss 17 of them. So we've picked 3 of them, and we have invited sisters who work very closely in some of this work, and they will present that for us. Now, I'd like to ask you if you could check the button at the bottom of your Zoom screen for interpretation. We have Silvina today, who translates from English to Spanish. So if you need the Spanish translation, please click the button. It's a little round globe at the bottom of your Zoom screen for interpretation, and just click Spanish. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I will start recording as well this webinar. Please let me know if it's an issue for any of you, but we will be recording because we would like other people who cannot join to have the opportunity to listen to it later on. And also what we're aiming at finishing around 9:30 Eastern time. That is about in an hour and a half. But do feel free to leave if you really have somewhere else to go. If you have something to do, of course, that's perfectly fine. We will be recording this and sharing it at the end. So we will start with a prayer that we've asked Sister Ameline to prepare for us. Sister Ameline is the promoter for justice and peace for the Asia-Pacific region. She does a lot of other work as well, but today she will be leading us in prayer. So over to you, Sister Ameline.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Praises and thanksgiving to the Holy Triune God for gathering us as one family, for we are called to act with justice. We are called to love tenderly and serve one another and to walk humbly with God. So let's listen, and if we can join. Can you hear?
Not yet.
No, Sister.
No? There's no sound.
Sister, go back. And before you hit your screen, it says share sound. So take down your video. And now look at your screen where you're going to share.
Yeah.
And that says share screen. Share sound source, sound and optimize. Hit both of those.
Yeah, and share sound. Okay.
Share sound. And then share your screen.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
Thank you, Sister Dusty.
Come, live in the light.
What happened? Sister, your sound is gone.
To live in the freedom of the city of God. We are called to act with justice. We are called to love tenderly. We are called to serve one another, to walk humbly with God. Come, open your heart and show your mercy to all those in fear. We are called to be hope for the hopeless, so all hatred and blindness will be no more. We are called to act with justice. We are called to love tenderly. We are called to serve one another, to walk humbly with God. We are called to act with justice. We are called to love tenderly. We are called to serve one another, to walk humbly with God. We are called to act with justice. We are called to love tenderly. We are called to serve one another, to walk humbly with God. We are called to act with justice. We are called to love tenderly. We are called to serve one another.
Now we pray together the Dominican blessing. We have translation there. The slides, this one. No, this one, sister. Okay. Hindi. Sige. Ika. Okay. There's the translation in Spanish and French. May God the Father, together please, may God the Father bless us. May God the Son heal us. May God the Holy Spirit enlighten us and give us eyes to see with, ears to hear with, and hands to do God's work with, feet to walk with, and a mouth to preach the word of salvation with, and the angel of peace to watch over us and lead us at last by our Lord's gift to the kingdom. Amen. Our Lady of the Rosary, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, Sister Ameline. That was
Thank
very
you.
beautiful. Lovely video. Very lovely prayer. Thank you. So before we start, as we said, today we will look at the Sustainable Development Goals. We will only look at 3 of them. They are also known as the Global Goals. They were adopted by the United Nations in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030, so very soon, all people enjoy peace and prosperity. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 development goals, so there are 17 of them, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. So now I will present Sister Dusty, that many of you already know very, very well. And Sister Dusty will introduce us a little bit more into the 3 development goals that we'll be discussing today. So I have seen Sister Dusty's resume, and I've picked a few things from it because we do not have the time to go through all your amazing achievements. So I'll be brief, but I know many people know you very well. So Sister Durstin Farman is Adrian Dominican sister with a broad experience in all aspects of peace and justice, as well as social work. To date, Sister Dusty has worked as a teacher, as a pastoral minister, an inpatient psychiatric social worker, director of the Office of Global Mission for Justice and Peace, and vocation director, and many other things. For the period from October 2019 till the present, Sister Dusty has been the UN representative for the Dominican Leadership Conference in New York. She is also the International Dominican Justice and Peace Promoter. She collaborates with Dominican women around the world on the working groups on girls following issues around homelessness, mining working group, subcommittee co-chair for the Amazon, committee on migration, climate change, and many other things. But I'll stop here and I'll give you the floor, Sister Dusty.
Thank you so much, Sister Philomena. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. Thank you for joining us today, and it's really a pleasure to be with all of you. Today, Dominicans from different directions in the world will share dimensions of these Sustainable Development Goals 3, 13, and 16. Sister Philomena has already given you a little bit of a good background, and just to repeat, these goals were established in 2015. And it was a historic moment. The SDGs certainly have many targets to meet with each goal. And we chose these goals to expand on today. We hope it gives all of us an increased understanding of the value of these 3 goals for the common good. Sustainable Development Goal number 3 addresses the health and well-being for all. It includes a bold commitment to end the epidemics of AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and other communicable diseases by 2030. It also promotes universal health coverage and provides access to safe and effective medicines and vaccines for all. This particular goal has 10 targets that will ensure healthy lives and promote well-being at all ages. Some of them are maternal mortality, neonatal and child mortality, infectious disease, non-communicable diseases, substance abuse, sexual and reproductive health, universal health care, emergency preparedness, health, and financing. Sustainable Development Goal 13 addresses climate change. Most of us here know that climate change is real, and it's an undeniable threat to our entire civilization. We are already experiencing the effects the effects of climate change. And this goal requires that we act now through education, innovation, and adherence to our climate commitments. We must make necessary changes to protect our common home, Earth. There are opportunities, huge opportunities, for us to modernize our infrastructure that will create new jobs and promote greater prosperity across the globe. Here are just a few of the targets that this particular SDG is trying to combat. Strengthen resilience, adaptive capacity to climate-related disasters, integrate climate change measures into policies and planning, build knowledge and capacity to meet climate change, and implement the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. The goal is to mobilize $100 billion annually to assist developing countries in meaningful mitigation actions. This $100 million billion was proposed by Hillary Clinton way back in the Paris Agreement. The Sustainable Development Goal 16 addresses a variety of targets. It promotes peaceful and inclusive societies, provides access to justice for all, and builds effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Sustainable Development 16 also addresses combating organized crime, illicit financial and arms flow, reduction of corruption and bribery, and provides universal legal identity. It strengthens national institutions so as to prevent violence and combat crime and terrorism. It promotes and enforces non-discriminatory law and policies. With this background, let's listen to our sisters, and I turn the webinar over to Sister Philomena. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Sister Dusty. So we'll move on straight into the next speaker. So we will have two sisters talking specifically on the goal number 3, which is about good health and well-being, as Sister Dusty just explained to us. So our first speaker is Sister Josephine Rose Blanco. She belongs to the congregation of Dominican Sisters of St. Catherine of Siena in the Philippines. She has been professed to religious life for 31 years now. She's a registered nurse, a licensed physician in internal medicine, and she has an MA in hospital management. Sister Josephine has been assigned in the healthcare apostolate of the congregation in hospitals, clinics, medical mission, and so on. She served the indigenous people in one of the geographically isolated and the most depressed areas in the Philippines for 7 years now. She's presently assigned as physician of the Tahanan St. Catherine of Siena, home for the elderly and sick sisters. Since 2021, she is also the General Counselor for the Ministry of Health. Sister Josephine, over to you, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Let me share my slides first.
Thank you.
Oh, is this? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Health is a universal basic right, and it largely contributes to building happy and prosperous societies. Healthy people are the foundation of healthy economies. After all, we always hear the statement, the first wealth is health. These are the targets of SDG 3, As I go on presenting my work, I will mention which of these targets we are dealing with. The Dominican Sisters of St. Catherine of Siena, Philippines, serve in hospitals, medical clinics. We have a medical mission team. We have a home for the elderly and sick sisters. We have several schools, retreat houses, and other related programs for justice and peace. This is our hospital in the southernmost part of the Philippines. Here we serve both Muslims and Christians alike. In 1960, the Oblates of Mary Immaculate invited the Dominican Sisters to aid in the health care of the province of North Cotabato. At that time, many women and babies died during the birthing process. Attached to the hospital is a school of midwifery, where we teach young students regarding obstetrics, pediatrics, communicable and non-communicable diseases. 95% of the student population are Muslims, coming from far-flung and poor areas of North Cotabato and the nearby provinces. The students are trained to save lives, as shown in the slides. They are taught how to educate and care for the mothers, deliver babies safely, follow up the mothers and babies up to 12 months after delivery. For healthy pregnancies, there must be 1, low or no maternal deaths, and 2, there should be skilled birth attendants. Globally, approximately 800 women die every day from pregnancy or childbirth. Care by skilled health professionals before, during, and after can save the lives of these women and children. A healthy and well-informed mother will consequently have a healthy infant or child. Every birth, every newborn is supposed to be an occasion of joy and celebration. It is unacceptable that so many women continue to die needlessly because of pregnancy and childbirth. Having said this, our apostolate has an impact in the realization of UN SDG 3. The students are taught important skills like early skin-to-skin contact of mothers and babies and breastfeeding, immediate care of the newborn, prenatal care, vaccination, and how to give health teachings to women in rural areas. These are the sisters and lay personnel assigned in our hospital and schools, and that school. We also have St. Martin's Mission Hospital, which caters to the indigenous people called the Mangyans. Behind this concrete building is a Mangyan village, which simulates the native village in the mountains. A familiar environment helps the native people recover fast and better. These are the Mangyan people. They are from the mountains. In their culture, once a Mangyan girl starts menstruating, she is given to a man for marriage. Very notably, the men are very protective, especially of their family. The husbands are the ones who facilitate the birth of the children. As part of respect for their culture, we allow the husbands to do the delivery in the huts, in the native huts, but in the presence of a physician and a nurse, and with the agreement that the medical staff would take over in difficult cases. For me, this is a very beautiful practice. These are the happy children, young mothers with the joyful sisters. Another SDG 3 target is to end preventable deaths of newborn and children under 5 years of age. Death rate among young children is a key output indicator for child health and well-being, and for social and economic development. Most common causes of death among children are infections and parasitic diseases, many of which are vaccine preventable. Deaths of newborn infants and children under 5 years old is a closely watched public health indicator because it reflects the access of communities to basic health interventions such as vaccination, medical treatment of infectious diseases, and adequate nutrition. St. Martin's Mission Hospital also helps detect, treat, and prevent tuberculosis, malaria, neglected tropical diseases, hepatitis, waterborne diseases, and other communicable diseases like HIV or AIDS, while giving access to safe, cheap, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicines in answer to universal health care. Malnourished children have a higher risk of death from common childhood illnesses. Children who are hungry hardly concentrate in class. Hence, we have a feeding program. Since as Dominicans, our first apostolate is our community, in Tahanan Santa Catalina de Siena, we take care of our elderly sisters and the other younger sisters from other communities who are sick. Here we help them in their physical as well as mental health. This is ensuring well-being at all ages. St. Martin Outreach Center leads in medical and dental missions to poor barrios and underserved Filipinos, as shown in these slides. This is my last slide. Thank you. I am Sister Josephine Rose Blanco from the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Sister Josephine. Very, very inspiring to see all the different work and programs going on for which your congregation is involved. I will now move on to our next speaker, who will also discuss the SDG number 3, and then afterwards I will open some time for questions specifically on this. So, Sister Josephine, you may have a question coming your way. We'll just see. Thank you very much. So now over to Sister Yelitza Ayala Gilo. She's from the Dominican Sisters of Fatima, a congregation founded in Puerto Rico in 1949. They serve the families with religious social work. She herself entered the convent in 2011 and made her final vows in 2021. For the past 4 years, she has served as the director of an institute called Special Institute for the Integral Development of Individual, Family, and Community. They work with mental health and vocational formation, also with victims of domestic violence and abuse. Sister Yelitza was recently transferred to the US, and she's currently serving at St. Martin of Tours Catholic Church in Gaithersburg. I think I said it right. She is working with families in pastoral accompaniment of the different ministries, and together with her sisters, helping families who struggle financially, also in their relationship and spiritual situations. So I'll give the floor to Sister Yelitza to tell us a bit more about this. If you'd like to share your screen for your presentation, Sister.
Okay, hello to everyone who is connected to this webinar today, Dominican Sisters and everyone connected. As Sister Filomena said, my name is Sister Yelitza. I am a Dominican Sisters of Our Lady of the Rosary of Fatima. I am from Puerto Rico, and I'm very honored to be here with you, sharing our ministries, our consecrated ways of life. And today I want to focus on the 3 goals selected for our reflection today, like the sister did before me. And I'm very glad to share how we are trying to do better in our world as Dominican sisters. First of all, I want to share with you that I'm very happy that our congregation is in our 75th anniversary this year. We were founded in 1949 in Yauco, Puerto Rico, by the servant of God, Madre Dominga Guzman. She started this mission of the Dominican Sisters to work for the evangelization of the families with the spirituality of Saint Dominic and our Blessed Mother, Our Lady of Fatima. So in 2019, we began the Commission for Justice and Peace and Integrity with Creation. We have sisters in this commission dedicated to create conscience of the importance of taking urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts, and integrating contemplation and action to combat climate change, and to help transform the world in the spirit of the gospel through lives that bear witness to justice, peace, and care for the integrity of creation. So we have been orienting people through visits, talks to different groups, and also participating in different activities like marches and also in social media. With this initiative, we are trying to collaborate with this 13 goal of climate action and also with the 16 goal together with the Confederation of Dominican Sisters of Latin America and the Caribbean, named the CODAC. So I saw that Sister Iside is connected today. So the sisters from Latin America and Caribbean are doing a great job in different ministries. And so we share together in different activities. So I think when we are trying to work with one of the goals, you automatically are involved with the rest of them. That's what happened in our work and apostolate. Especially, we do a lot of social religious work. So we share with many vulnerable people living in violent environments, poverty, drug abuse, mental health problems. So we try to reduce violence, promote human rights, ensure inclusive participation, and work together to find lasting solutions to conflict and insecurity. All this through our different ministries. As you can see here, we have in our congregation different organizations run by the sisters with the help of volunteers and professionals who collaborate with us. And we have institutions in Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Dominican Republic. So one of the projects in which I was very involved is one in Puerto Rico, in Guanica, Puerto Rico, called, as Sister Filomena has said, the Special Institute for the Integral Development of Individual, Family, and Community, IDIFCO. This is the work I shared with the sisters at the UN in the CSW 68 in New York. I served here for the last 4 years. And I was recently, as Sister said, I was recently transferred to the United States this past August. Now I am in Maryland, Gaithersburg, Maryland. But this institute, which I loved, we work like the third goal establishes, recognizing that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and ensure well-being. We offer support to the families in mental health with social workers, therapists, counselors, lawyers, and people can receive all these services free of charge. And as I told you before, we are located in a very vulnerable place that have suffered earthquakes, hurricanes, pandemic, and a long history of violence, domestic violence, child abuse, poverty. This town, Guanica, is considered the poorest town in the U.S. Census. So we also work to promote the creation of small business by giving classes, vocational formation in bakery, beauty, computer, jewelry, electricity, and so on. So I'm happy to share with you this picture of a group of women who graduated of one of our programs this last month of June. There was a program especially designed for women. Some of them received therapy. Others attended classes in nails design, bakery, jewelry. We received the help from the government through a grant in order to help them begin a small business and make everything free of charge. And I'm very proud that one of them is now certificated as an artesana, which means she had a license to sell her products as handmade original. And some others are doing work from home, creating an income for their families. Some of them are also survivors of domestic violence. So the safe environment we create for them allows them to improve in their mental health, the creation of a support network, the learning of skills in developing their own strategies. At the same time, they are creating friendship and looking themselves as beloved children of God. To listen to their stories of people like these women encourages to continue our ministry. We also have programs for kids to give them the opportunity to express themselves through art. So that is another beautiful way of seeing how God enters in lives and families and restore them. We have developed different ways of approaching necessity through all our ministries and institutes that I don't have the time to share, but I can tell you we are present in Puerto Rico, in Venezuela, in the Dominican Republic, and here in the United States, working to bring Christ to the family and the family to Christ. So I would like to finish with these words of Madre Dominga, saying that el mundo necesita paz, está hambriento de amor de Dios.
It says
Debemos
the world
compartir
needs
nuestro
peace.
amor
It's
por
hungry for
el
love, for
world.
God's
This
love. We must
peace
share
is
our
hungry for
love.
love, for
These are the
God's love.
words of
So
Madre
we must
Dominga.
share our love. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share our work, the way we are trying to do a better work, and for sharing with you, Dominican Sisters. It's a pleasure and honor. So I'm willing to answer any questions you may have, and God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sister Yelitsa. Again, very inspiring to see everything that your congregation and yourself do to meet those goals, and how you work in collaboration with other sisters around the world. You mentioned sisters in the Caribbean, Latin America. That's wonderful. I liked also what you said about all the goals are connected, right? We work towards one goal, it will benefit another, and there's some connections, and that's really food for thoughts. With regard to question, thank you for staying with us. I think because I'm aware of the time, perhaps we'll leave the questions to the end. So all the sisters, please, if you have questions, just write it down. We will have a little bit of time towards the end. So now we will move on to speak more specifically about the Sustainable Development Goal number 13 around climate action. So I will start sharing with you a little presentation from our next speaker. Her name is Lara Kelly. She works in the Congregation for Justice and Peace Office of the Congregation of Dominican Sisters in Cabra in Ireland. Her work involves bringing together the social and environmental justice work of the sisters and lay colleagues in Ireland, New Orleans, Argentina, South Africa, as well as supporting the congregation to get involved in networks and campaigns dedicated to climate justice, human rights, sustainable economics, and other issues. Lara has spent more than 10 years working on campaigns and communications with international and Irish NGOs, and has been working with the Dominican Sisters Cabra for 2 years now. So she couldn't be with us today. She's on holiday with her children, so we gave her a break, but she was very kind to send us a video that she recorded specifically for today. I will now share my screen, so bear with me a moment. Thank you. It's not working. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll go on to the next speaker. In the meantime, I will email Sister Dusty, who will share the video afterwards. So we'll move on to Sister Marisa. Sister Marisa Figueroa is a dedicated member of the Dominican Sisters of the Most Holy Rosary, Our Lady of Remedies Mission Chapter in the Philippines. Sister Marisa serves as the director of the University of the Assumption Community Extension Office. She facilitates extension programs with various sectors and schools in Pampanga, focusing on indigenous peoples. As a dedicated advocate for environmental sustainability, Sister Marisa manages the university eco-farm and encourages students, faculty, and alumni to participate in the institution's green projects and sustainability initiatives. Additionally, she is an active member of the Environmental Committee of the Dominican Family Justice, Peace, and Integration of Creation. So, Sister Marisa, if you're here, please, you may start your presentation.
Yeah, I requested Sister Dusty to share the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. Sister Dusty, do you have Sister Marisa's presentation? Sorry, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Okay, I can proceed without the PowerPoint.
Let me just give me a moment.
Yeah.
I don't know why it went away, but anyway, one moment. Because she's their Google, right? Their Google.
Shout out to all the Adrian Dominican sisters there who are deeply committed to climate action. We hope as a congregation we can be allowed that to see institution or organization in the future. We have also sisters from Norway who join us.
One moment here, I have the slides.
Blessed day to everyone.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Click there.
Are you okay, Sister Marisa?
Click slideshow, Dusty.
Yeah, click slideshow.
I can't hear her.
No,
Okay,
but
so
Click slideshow.
Click.
okay.
Yeah,
Can I
Click.
start now?
it's
Yeah.
not in slideshow mode. So click the slideshow, Dusty.
I did.
It's not moving.
Yeah, it's not moving there.
so perhaps, Sister Marisa, you can start without the presentation. We'll try to make it work, but if not, we're listening to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Blessed day, everyone. It is my delight to join you for this important webinar on Sustainable Development Goal 13, which is climate action. As a member of the Adrian Dominican Sisters and the Director of Community Extension at the University of the Assumption, I see firsthand the devastating effects of climate change on vulnerable communities, especially here in Pampanga. The Philippines faces severe natural disasters, typhoons, floods, and rising sea levels, all intensified by climate change. In recent years, we have experienced an alarming increase in the frequency and intensity of these calamities. Farmers here in Pampanga struggle with unpredictable weather patterns and pest outbreaks, threatening their livelihoods. Coastal communities are at risk of displacement due to the rising sea level. These challenges underscores the urgent need for climate action. Aligned with Pope Francis encyclicals Laudato Si and Laudato Deum, the University of the Assumption is committed to integrating care of creation across all areas of our operation, curriculum, research, and community programs. Our mission goes beyond traditional education. It focuses on building resilient communities to foster hope as we now navigate these environmental challenges together. At the university, we engage administrators, students, faculty, and alumni to act for climate change. Our university key initiative in our university is recycling program, where students collect plastic bottles and repurpose them into seedling for our adopted barangays and communities. This not only reduces waste, but also support local greening efforts. We also encourage students to donate used bags and clothes, which benefits our adapted schools and scholarship program. Additionally, our students participate in environmental cleanup drives and waste management program in environmental challenges. Moreover, students engage in research on natural pest control methods and sustainable practices, providing practical solutions that benefit both our university and community. One of the most impactful initiatives in the University Eco Farm in San Jose Matulid, Mexico, Pampanga. This farm serves as a living laboratory where administrators, faculty, students, and alumni, and our partner communities learn and practice sustainable agriculture. Following the ECO framework, educate, capacitate, and organize environmental activities, we provide hands-on experiences in organic farming and composting. Participants not only acquire essential skills, but also cultivate a sense of responsibility toward environmental preservation. The University Eco Farm is not only a space for environmental activities, but also a center for eco-spirituality, where faith and care for creation are deeply intertwined. We incorporate creative liturgies, and yours truly facilitate recollections to strengthen participants' spiritual connection with the environment. To enhance our impact, we established an organization which we called Samahan ng Pamilyang Aktibo at Responsable sa Kalikasan. This is composed of local women, elderly, and their families. We call that SPARK so that they can maintain the farm and promote sustainable practices and organize activities within their households. We also conduct a regular Food for Work program in partnership with Mission Procure and Dignity Health, which supports local families through a community gardening initiative that promotes sustainable farming practices. Participants earn food by working in community gardens and gaining valuable skills in organic farming while maintaining dignity through meaningful work. The UA Eco Farm is not just about growing food. It's about cultivating a culture of care, resilience, and hope for a sustainable future. Our efforts have earned the university recognition as one of the eco-friendly and sustainable establishment in Pampanga for 3 consecutive years at both the regional and national level. During the pandemic, our health education accessible livelihood program provided crucial support to three-wheeler and tricycle drivers. We offer health education and sustainable livelihood, and that was chosen as a model for supporting vulnerable communities during the pandemic. As we conclude this webinar, I urge you, my dear sisters, to continue our action, whether it's community gardening, reducing our carbon footprint, or advocating for sustainable policies. Our effort counts. As Helen Keller said, alone we can do little, together we can do much. Let us unite in our commitment to a sustainable future. Thank you for your attention. I'm eager to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Sister Marisa. Again, a very beautiful presentation, reminding us that, first of all, we need to work together. We can't change the world just by one person. We have to all work together. We have to support each other. I like what you said about, when you help local families with programs on sustainable farming practices, which also provide them with that dignity to have work, and again, we see the connection between climate actions, but also people's dignity to be able to have work and sustain themselves, and very inspiring again. We'll have emailed Sister Dusty Lara's presentation. If you can try to share this on your screen.
You sent it to me?
Yes, I've emailed it to you.
Okay,
So
one moment, please.
Should be at the top of your emails. You can share. My computer will not share anything. And Sister Marisa, if you're available, we'll have some questions at the end, and I expect you'll probably have a couple of questions if you can stay with us.
Can you see?
There you go. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lara Kelly, and I work in the Congregation Justice Office of the Dominican Sisters Cabra, based in Dublin in Ireland. Thank you to Sister Philomena for inviting me to take part in today's webinar on the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person today, but I'm delighted to have the opportunity to record this presentation in advance. So without further ado, I would like to share my screen with you. Today's webinar is the Dominican Sisters Reflect on SDGs 3, 13, and 16. And I've been asked specifically to look at SDG 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. I'd like first of all to look at the specific targets related to SDG 13. Target 13.1, strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-related disasters. Target 13.2, integrate climate change measures into policies and planning. Target 13.3, build knowledge and capacity to meet climate change. Target 13A, implement the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. And finally, Target 13B, promote mechanisms to raise capacity for climate planning and management. I'd like to begin by talking about the work of the Dominican Sisters Cabra and some commitments that were made that relate to SDG 13. Coming out of a chapter meeting in 2021, commitments were made to develop and establish a green policy for the congregation, with steps including energy sustainability, recycling, ethical consumption, ethical investing, biodiversity measures, and a program of ecological spirituality and education. There was also a commitment to study new sustainable economic models, different from the dominant exploitative models, in order to help people move out of destitution and prevent further environmental damage. We should explore practical possibilities of doing this, referencing Let Us Dream by Pope Francis and Donut Economics by Kate Raworth. This graphic is from the front cover of a report called the UN Emissions Gap Report, and it was published in 2023. And it says, temperatures hit new highs, yet world fails to cut emissions again. And the title, Broken Record, is a play on the English phrase, to be a broken record, or to say the same thing over and over again. The report sets out that the world is on track for a 2.5 to 2.9 degrees Celsius temperature rise, far above the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit that would avoid the worst aspects of climate change. This graphic may be familiar to many of you, known as the warming stripes, which shows global temperature change from 1850 to 2023. And this photo will be all too familiar to many of us from our TV screens, and it shows the impact on the poorest people of climate change. It shows the impact of environmental degradation and the climate crisis on the poorest people on the planet who have had the least impact. So I want to take a moment to talk about climate refugees. Over 376 million people around the world have been forcibly displaced by floods, windstorms, earthquakes, or droughts since 2008, with a record 32.6 million in 2022 alone. With climate change as the driving catalyst, the number of climate refugees will continue to rise. The Institute for Economics and Peace predicts that in the worst case scenario, 1.2 billion people could be displaced by 2050 due to natural disasters and other ecological threats. There is no clear definition of a climate refugee, nor are climate refugees covered by the 1951 Refugee Convention. And so we see the impact of climate crisis on the poorest, and we see the unbalanced nature of the world. And I'd like to quote the words of Pope Francis: "Listen to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, who suffer most because of the unbalanced ecology." So I want to talk for a moment about some of the work, the ecological work that's taking place here in Ireland and in other projects related to the Dominican Sisters Cabra. We have sisters also working in New Orleans, in Louisiana, in the United States, in Argentina, in South Africa, and a presence in Lisbon in Portugal. We carry out education on cosmology, environmental issues, and climate change through An Tairseach, which is our organic farm and ecological centre based in Wicklow. We've recently installed solar panels here in the garden just beside where I'm speaking to you today in Cabra in Dublin to aid our energy sustainability. As well as the ecological education work carried out in our ecology centre in Wicklow, we also carry out ecological education through our work with schools. And I've recently been working on a poster project for the Season of Creation, which has been working with Dominican primary and secondary schools throughout Ireland and inviting them to make posters depicting their take and their thoughts on environmental justice and social justice. So this is just one of the examples of a poster here from St. Dominic's College in Cabra. Letting Earth burn, is that the plan? And so there's been a wealth of posters coming in from students. And I feel that this is perhaps a project that could be a really nice one to run across Europe and across Dominican Sisters Europe, and indeed Dominican Sisters International, using art to carry out ecological education. Coming back to our commitment to study new economic models for a moment, So when we're looking at the health of the planet, we have 9 planetary boundaries that were set out by Earth scientists in 2009. And they look at issues like climate change, like chemical pollution, ozone depletion, biodiversity loss, and other challenges facing our planet. And in this way, looking at the planetary boundaries, we can try and address the cry of the Earth. And then when it comes to the cry of the poor, we have the Sustainable Development Goals, the focus of our webinar today. 17 goals set out in 2015 to be achieved by 2030. Unfortunately, just 17% of the SDGs are on track. Half show minimal or moderate progress, while over 1/3 are either stalled or regressing. So there's a long, long way to go. In an effort to look at the needs of the planet and the needs of people, the economist Kate Raworth, who had worked for a long time with Oxfam, sat down and began at her desk in Oxfam in 2012 to draw the planetary boundaries, and then inside to draw another circle, which became the social foundations. These are essentially the Sustainable Development Goals. The aim of donut economics, as this model has become known, is to not have an overshoot of the ecological ceiling, to not push the planetary boundaries beyond repair, but also not to have people fall into the shortfall of the social foundation, not to have people lacking in income and work, in education, in food, in water, in housing, in political voice, in peace and justice. And so, as I said, this model has become known as donut economics, and it is one of the sustainable economic models that the Dominican Sisters Cabra have been adopting and educating ourselves on and trying to spread the word. And Kate Raworth has spoken a lot about this desire for growth, economic growth at all costs. And she said, when we think in terms of health, and we think of something that tries to grow endlessly within our bodies, we recognize that immediately. That would be a cancer. And so she's challenging the notion of endless economic growth and also questioning the cost, the social and the environmental cost of that growth. And so this is the very basic donut model. We have the ecological ceiling, the outer circle, and we have the social foundation, the inner circle. And in the middle, in the light green circle, we have the safe and just space for humanity. Looking at another circle for a moment, which I think resonates very strongly with the concepts of donut economics, we have the Laudato Si Action Platform, 7 goals. Listening to the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, ecological economics, sustainable lifestyles, ecological education, ecological spirituality, and community resilience and empowerment. And I think there's so much crossover between the message of Laudato Si, the message of the Sustainable Development Goals, and donut economics. We were delighted in the Dominican Sisters Cabra to be involved in a visit to Dublin in September 2024 by Kate Raworth. She came to Ireland to receive an honorary doctorate from University College Dublin, and we worked hard here in Cabra to help organise her visit. We worked with the Irish Donut Economics Network to welcome Kate to Dublin, to have a public meeting and conversation with her about how donut economics can be put into action and how we can reach that safe and just space for humanity. I've shown this image before in a presentation to Dominican Sisters Europe, and it just shows the breadth of the presence of Dominican sisters and friars across Europe. And I know that speaking to Dominican Sisters International today as well, we could have a global image showing the reach of congregations and Dominican congregations and the Dominican family worldwide. So I think there's a huge strength in numbers. I'm delighted to have had the chance to speak to you today. I'd like to thank Sister Philomena again, and I'd like to invite any other members of the Dominican family working on peace and justice to get in touch, and to see ways that we might work together, whether it is through the season of creation, through environmental and ecological education, perhaps with the next European elections that will come along. So I'm very open to hearing from you, and I'd just like to say thank you so much for listening to me today. And I leave you my contact details there. So Lara Kelly, Congregation Justice Office, and my email address, Congregation Justice Office, DominicanSisters.com. So I shall stop sharing my screen. And I'd just like to say thank you all so much for listening to me today. And I wish you well with the rest of your webinar. And I hope we can stay in touch on peace and justice issues. Thank you and goodbye.
Well, thank you, Lara. We are very grateful that she could record this for us and send this to us. Very interesting, and she has shared her contact details. If you haven't had time to make a note of it, we're happy to put you in touch. She's really willing to collaborate because just as even Sister Marisa said, we need to work together. That's the best way to move forward. Just one really powerful image we saw, all these refugees on the boat. I mean, when we say a picture can tell 1,000 words, I mean, it certainly says it. That really, I felt something. Climate issues, I mean, impact people in so many different ways. It pushes people furthermore into poverty, displace people, and we know all the issues that face migrants when they go into other countries, and this is obviously then very, very difficult to help, and so we need to work together. And I think Laura made a very good presentation to that end. So again, if you have any questions, make a note of it, and we can always forward it to Laura. We'll be very, very happy, I'm sure, to respond to any of you. But for now, I'd like to move to our next and final speaker, who will speak to us specifically about the SDG number 16, that is peace, justice, and strong institutions. So Sister Ellen Burkhardt, whom I had the pleasure to meet before in New York. She's an Adrian Dominican sister and currently lives in the Detroit area. Her journey to believing that nonviolence is the only path forward moved gradually. As a young adult, she joined Pax Christi USA, a peace group that promotes alternatives to violence. After a few years, she began to question her own commitment to nonviolence because she knew that as a US citizen, her country would certainly protect her from an outside threat. Believing in violence in itself did not cost her anything, but in fact, she risked nothing, not the way other people in other countries risked everything. So she then decided to take a Witness for Peace trip to Nicaragua in the 80s, in part to test her own commitment and to witness the reality of life in a war zone. In Nicaragua, she had an experience that resolved all her doubts and questions. War is inhuman, intolerable, and against God's call to each of us. This is something that Sister Ellen shared with me, and I would like to give her the floor so she can speak to us a bit more about this. Sister Ellen, are you still with us?
I am. Thank you, Sister Philomena.
Thank you.
Yes, so I will be speaking about a connection between nonviolence, actually identity more than connection, between nonviolence and SD Goal 16 for a just, peaceful, and inclusive society. As Sister Philomena told you, we met some years ago, and I had shared my story about how I came to really have a personal commitment to nonviolence, and the transformative experience that happened really at the end of 3 weeks in Nicaragua was I visited a child care center, and the people there were so proud of their child care center, and it was beautiful. But the obvious question that no one was asking there is, why do you have these pretty deep ditches right in the middle of your child care center? What's happening here? And I asked that question, and the person said, oh, well, when the fighting is near us, then we put the children in the ditches so they won't be harmed. And I thought, really? That's what you have to do? And it was at that moment that all my questions were resolved, really, about my own commitment to nonviolence. Because I thought, no matter where I live, whether I live in the United States or Nicaragua or anywhere, no child should have to be put into a ditch to keep them from fighting. It's just wrong. It's clearly wrong. So that was my conversion experience. I was so ready for the conversion experience, but that was the moment. But as I was thinking about it in preparation for today, I also thought about how many countries in our world today where the people are living in violent situations would welcome having a ditch right there where they could put their children to keep them safe. So what made me shocked really in Nicaragua about why they had the ditches, and then I thought, but you know what? All over the world, people would welcome ditches to put the children in. So such a vast awakening to think of it that way for me. So because of our congregation's commitment to nonviolence, and one of our sisters Sister Mary Pat Dewey of happy memory, was one of 3 founders of a group called Meta Peace Team. And Meta Peace Team was founded in Michigan in 1994. And Sister Mary Pat Dewey was one of the 3 who founded it. And the mission of Meta Peace Team is to work actively to create a just world grounded in nonviolence and respect for the interconnectedness of all people and all things. We pursue peace through active nonviolence in places of conflict. And that the places of conflict are all over. We have had Meta Peace Teams over the years in Iraq, in Bosnia, in Mexico, in Gaza. We currently have people in Gaza. And in Native American sovereign nations here in the United States. So we have international peace teams and we have domestic peace teams. Most recently, I was on a peace team that took place in Detroit at the beginning of October. And the group that had asked, we always go where we're invited. We don't decide to go somewhere as a peace team without being invited. And a group that has invited us many times is called Jewish Voices for Peace. And Jewish Voices for Peace were having a gathering in a park in Detroit, and they asked to have a peace team from where I am from. Pretty obvious reasons. Jewish people are under threat. So if they're gathering anywhere, they always ask for a peace team. And if you're on a peace team, you wear a bright yellow vest and it has in big letters, peace team on it. And actually just having a peace team somewhere will often quell any thought of violence. Not always, but often. what the Jewish Voices for Peace were doing that day is having a prayer service on the banks of the Detroit River. And I was and when you're on a peace team, you're always in groups of two, never one person. And I was at one point on a peace team that was right near where they were gathering. And so I could hear their prayer, and it was so moving. It was asking God to remove what's in their way to be peaceful people, to help them to see every person, including people from Palestine, as equal persons, which they are, of course. But on the way into the prayer service, they were each given a stone. And after they had the prayer, they threw the stone in the little stones. They threw the stone into the river to say they were throwing off all of the ways that they were not acting as God would act in this situation. It was so, so moving. And on the way out after their prayer service, one of the women stopped, the person I was with and myself stopped me, and they said, "Thank you for being here. I know when we have a peace team that I don't have to worry." At the beginning of the prayer, I noticed someone walking near us in the park, and I started to get nervous about why they were there. Then I remembered the peace team was here, and I thought, that's your job. You're the ones who have to watch what's happening. We don't have to do that. So I could enter fully into the prayer. And I thought, that's the best thank you I've ever received. What a gift. So not all peace teams have those beautiful, wonderful experiences, but we do have them. Sometimes it's something that's, it can be between different political factions, and peace teams are nonpartisan. You can be partisan in your heart, but when you're on a peace team, you have to be nonpartisan. It's the only way that we can retain communication between different sides of an issue. And whatever side seems to be having the most trouble is who we try to engage. Engaging with other people is one of the most effective ways that we have for diffusing a situation. Acknowledging how someone is. You seem to be really upset about this issue. Where is that coming from? We say anything to get them engaged because we want people to talk about it.
Lo que nosotros deseamos es que las personas sean capaces de
other things. I remember the very first time I was on a peace team, and it was in Detroit as well. And someone was handing out literature, and I took it. And the person with me said, Sister Ellen, you can't do that. You're showing favoritism to a side by doing that. You can't take literature from people. I said, oh, okay, I learned. But that's what we do. We send people overseas. We train people to be on peace teams. We educate people from grade school, young children, and we have high school students that we train. We go to colleges when we're invited. We have nonviolence training all over the United States. We started in Michigan, but now we have sites around the United States where we go. We've been to the border with Mexico and had peace team trainings there, as well as our own peacekeepers there. When I was at the peace team I mentioned earlier, the person that I was paired with was a young man who was 24 years old. And he is a seasoned peace team veteran now. He's been on peace teams many times. But that's what another thing that gives me hope is seeing young people who want to continue this tradition. And the work that we do from Meta Peace Team, it says, is train ordinary citizens in creative, nonviolent education. I'm sorry. And we've trained hundreds of people, actually probably more than hundreds at this point. And the teams are deployed abroad and in regions of conflict. We've been to places like, do you know what the Ku Klux Klan is, for those of you who are from somewhere else? They're people who, at least in their tradition, have believed that Black people are not equal to white people, and they're white supremacists. And so we've been to rallies that they're at. We weren't invited by them, but we were invited by other people. We've been to Pride festivals, LGBTQ festivals, and we've been to the Republican National Convention in the United States, and we've been to political rallies. Anywhere that people have issues that they think could lead to conflict. And it can get to a point where you have to, the team members could have to step in between two sides, because we don't want to get it to that point, but that does happen on occasion where you have to physically get between people. There was a rally, I think it was both sides of abortion rights, that was happening in Ann Arbor. And they had a relatively small team. It was like 9 or 10 people, and it was a big crowd. So what they did is they stood together in between the crowds, holding hands, and people facing, every other person facing a different way, and tried to engage people in that way. So this is a ministry that the Adrian Dominican Sisters support strongly, both by their presence, but also by helping us to be in that ministry.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm done.
No,
I know time is.
I would listen to you for going on and on and on. I'm aware of the time and people are leaving, of course, because and thank you so much for. I know I spoke to you before a few years ago about what you do, and it's inspiring. It's very brave, and it's wonderful work. And like you said, you know, sometimes just having a peace team out there can bring peace without you having to engage. But it's also brave. I know many times you'd feel a bit nervous. There are situations that are potentially dangerous to be in. And it's wonderful that you also spend the time training other people becoming a peacemaker. Yeah, wonderful work. And I'm aware of the time, so I don't think we have time for questions. But what I would suggest is that any question be sent to us, and we can always then contact our speakers to provide responses or to put people in touch together. We can very much do this. So I will leave it as this for now. And I will again thank very, very much all our sisters who have come to speak with us today to share their experiences. I will also want to say thank you for all the sisters who are on the Justice and Peace Commission and helped organize this webinar. Obviously, Sister Dusty, who's been leading us, Sister Ameline, that you saw at the beginning. Also, we need to thank very much our translator, Silvina. It is not an easy job to try to translate non-stop for an hour and a half. So thank you very much, Silvina. But also, and the most important is to thank all of us, all the sisters, all the women around the world who are brave, who are doing amazing work, non-stop, no day off. We don't really have days off. All these issues that we're dealing with, They don't stop on a Sunday for us to take a day off. They don't, it's all the time. And we see amazing commitment all around the world. And we need to continue supporting each other and praying for each other that all this good work continues. As Sister Dusty has mentioned before, as Lara mentioned again, the SDGs were put together in 2015 with a target date of 2030. We're 2/3 of the way through. We've only achieved 17%. We are not on target at all, and it's very unlikely to happen. But we can't give up. All of this webinar today is inspiring to see that we can make a difference slowly and work together and continue. So thank you again. I feel truly blessed to be part of the Dominican family, and it's so wonderful to see all the sisters joining and supporting each other. So thank you very much. We will be sharing this recording and any of the presentations that the sisters showed us today. So we will try to share whatever we get. Okay? So thank you very much. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Sister Philomena. Thank you, Sister Dusty.
Thank you all.
Grazie Dio. Thank you all, sisters.
Thank you all.
The speakers.
Thanks. And Dusty, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Ray.